Bam, we're live. Good morning, Jeez Louise. Good morning, Jeff. We've come on a little early this morning. We got Brent Steffensen coming on. Ninja Warrior. From perusing his Instagram thoroughly. He believes in some stuff that I'm very curious to hear him talk about. That the earth is flat, that we didn't land on the moon, that abortion is killing babies. Oh man, there's this video on his Instagram that is wild. He thinks that the Chris Rock slap was hi, good morning, Jody. Good morning, Christine. The Chris Rock slap was staged. I should have titled this be very careful what you believe, be even more careful what you know. Kevin Smith, good morning. A couple of days ago, we had a lady on the identity Dr. Lisa Maria Del Rio. After the podcast was over, she sent me a text telling me, oh my God, how fucking amazing it was, yada, yada, yada. I was very flattered. I'm always flattered. 99% of the people always do tell me that. The feedback on the YouTube station was amazing. People loved the podcast, but there were 3 red flags that I saw when I was interviewing her. One, I think she almost started crying probably like 14, 15, 20. I don't know. She almost started crying many times on the podcast. And I was like, that's interesting. That was a red flag. The fact she had a post that celebrated 100,000 followers, that was a little bit of a red flag. I always think that that's a sign of like some sort of mental illness, but especially coming from someone who calls himself the identity doctor. And the third thing was that she refers to herself as an influencer. That's always a weird thing to me. Anyway, I guess I should have listened to my spider senses. It's a shame. I think that the podcast made her look nothing but amazing and only bolstered her brand. I'm kind of good at that, at playing the heel. But either way, she had lawyers send me a letter this morning telling me to pull it down. They have no merit on, but I pulled it down anyway. I don't want anyone on my podcast who doesn't want to be on it. Like, if you don't want to be on the podcast, then I know, right? Those 3 things should have been. Anyway, I pulled it down. So we'll talk more. I'll do a live call-in show and we'll talk more about it. I wish her the best. I wish she could have been a little more straightforward and face-to-face with me instead of like having lawyers handle it all. Cedric Lapointe also had a podcast pulled down, and we handled it man to man. I obviously don't want to do anything to harm anyone. That's I just want to make people laugh and love on people. So anyway. Hi, Brent.
Hey, how's it going?
Good morning. Awesome.
Cool.
It's a good ass life.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. What do you own chickens?
I'm sorry?
Do you own chickens?
I do. Yeah. We have 10 chickens.
Are they awake yet?
They just woke up.
Good morning. Where are you?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that behind you. That looks fun. Is that the ramp they walk up to go to bed at night? What's that? Is that ramp some sort of like...
That's actually the kitty ramp. So my cats run the show. I just have all sorts of weird towers and ramps built all over. So they love perching.
They're outdoor cats?
Indoor, outdoor.
Okay. Yeah. What about... I was thinking about this recently. We in the last, I don't know, I just remember being a kid thinking that there was this push to make all cats indoor cats, and that it's abusive to keep them outdoor, and they're not equipped. And every time I heard that shit, I'm like, if I was a cat, would I rather spend 20 years inside, or would I rather spend 10 or 15 years outside? I'm like, I'm going with outside.
I'm the same. Yeah.
I'm like, is this more nonsense? Like you shouldn't swim after you eat? Is this or that the earth is round? Is this just more bullshit?
It was kind of like the whole COVID thing. If you want to stay safe,
yeah,
don't leave your house. You're guaranteed not to get, hit by a car or something.
You put a premium on your health.
A premium?
Like your health is like one of the things in your life that's you put towards the top of the thing. Like
absolutely. Yep. Started from a young age. I was just an athlete from early on, and I just wanted to know how to like perform the best. And then kind of later on in life, I had some digestive issues, so I needed to figure out what to put in my body to make it feel good. So, I mean, I've always just, health has been a major priority.
And when you say athlete from a kid, what's that look like?
I mean, I was climbing around before I could walk. So my parents were like, we got to get this kid in a padded environment. So they got me in gymnastics at about 4 years old. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Do you think that you were extra active, or you just had astute parents that saw, holy shit, all kids are super duper active and they need to be involved in stuff?
You know, I think I was just very active.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where was that? Where did you live when that
At that point, it was Spokane, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a great place.
It's a cool, I mean, I only lived there till I was about 9. So I didn't really get to know it as an adult or anything, but I thought it was an awesome spot.
How did you settle in Salt Lake City?
Well, so my family's been from here for generations, and I was actually born here, and my dad was in the Air Force. So right when I was born, we moved to Texas for a little while, California for a while, and then ended up in Washington for about 9 years. And then I came back with my family after he retired from the military, and then was here for a long spurt, most of my formative years, you know. And then when I was about 27, I moved to LA for stunts. That's how I got involved in the ninja stuff. And then was there for about 6 years, and then moved to Texas for 5 with Alpha Warrior, and then moved back. I was like, you know, I got to get close to the family again.
Oh, wow. Are those moves scary? Like Texas to Utah?
You know, they're definitely, you know, the unknown is scary. So coming back to Utah wasn't really scary. You know, it's very known, and, you know, your family here, a lot of friends. But when you're going to a new town and you know very few people, it's definitely a little scary, you know?
And just kind of financial stability too, right? I had a friend recently who is financially successful, but he moved to from California to Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
And he's an attorney, and I was just like, holy shit, like you got to pick up your family of 3 kids and like get all your shit reorganized up in Idaho. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's one thing moving, you know, to a different city in the same state, but when you're relocating over several states, it's an ordeal.
Yeah. Do you have kids, Brent?
You know, I just had my first baby girl. She just turned 10 months last week. So
awesome.
It's the best, man. I love it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's like you always had her, right? The second they come out, it's like you always had her.
Oh, there you go. There she is. Yeah, you know, it's like, I mean, they're part of you. So it's wild. I mean, I couldn't imagine my lady Emma, you know, it was growing inside of her. So it literally was part of her for so long. So, but they're awesome, man.
The you popped on my radar for 2 reasons. Someone sent me a DM and they said, hey, you got to get this guy Brent Steffensen on. He was a ninja warrior, and he has some thoughts about the shape of planet Earth, about it being flat as opposed to round. And in the days and obviously I come from the CrossFit community, and I think CrossFitters love all that shit, right? Pull-ups, climbing.
They're out of the box. They train in the box, but they're out of the box thinkers.
Yeah, and they kind of want to use their fitness for other stuff. So like, you've been going to an affiliate for 3 years now. You want to test yourself at Tough Mudder, Spartan Race. Obviously, it's Ninja Warrior's a next level, but the CrossFitters could probably like at least look at some of the things and be like, hey, they can get their head wrapped around trying each of those events. They're not out of the realm of possibility, maybe not stringing 20 of them together like you guys do, but each one of those events is in their own. They're like, oh, I'm going to put that thing in my garage. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. CrossFitters are definitely very well-rounded, up for a challenge for sure. They love just conquering new stuff. Ninja Warrior, you gotta get really specific, because you gotta start doing a little finger training and those little different things. But yeah, CrossFitters are amazing athletes.
And in the days building up to this, I thought we were going to be talking more about your career with being a Ninja Warrior and training. And as I started looking more and more at your Instagram, there's so many parallels between the things on there and what's happening in society. Meaning, you know, someone will say something and someone will be like, well, that's crazy. And I try to contextualize everything. I said, crazier than locking down planet Earth and telling kids that they have to take an injection.
Right.
Because that seems really fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Crazier than people in the United States Congress saying it's okay for 12-year-old boys to remove their penises because they feel like girls. I'm like, all of a sudden you having an opinion on the shape of the earth doesn't seem, because I don't know what the implications. I know what the implications are for thinking it's okay to chop off a 12-year-old boy's penis. I believe, and I'm open to being wrong, but I believe that 100% of those end up in chaos. I don't think any of those end in a happy ending. I don't think that person's 60 and being like, wow, I'm really happy with the path I chose.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. No.
But I do think that you could have a different idea on the shape of the earth and die a happy life. You could think it's a fucking triangle.
Right. I mean,
and so now I'm contextualizing shit, and I'm like, how is anyone getting so adamant about this guy? Or I just start contextualizing stuff, and I'm like, man, but people flip out about that shit, right?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I've talked about I like to talk about things that people don't really like to talk about, but a lot of people are thinking. But I mean, I went, I've talked about the Trump stuff, abortion. When I dove into flat earth, I got the most hate I've ever had on any topic. It was pretty mind blowing.
Why is that? It seems like such a benign topic. I don't know what the implication. What are the negative implications of talking about it? I understand the negative implication. Like, I don't want to have a conversation with someone justifying pedophilia.
Right.
I have no interest in that.
Right.
But I don't. But if if someone, I think that the shape of the earth is probably more valid than talking about the Sasquatch.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
there's definitely more evidence to support it.
Are there any dangers in talking about? Are there any implications of us talking about? I guess it just scares people because it's they're not comfortable. They're so scared of their reality shifting a little bit, and I can relate to that. Absolutely. I don't want my shit being shifted either.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't like the thought of aliens flying around everywhere and we just can't see them. I don't like that.
The unknown and having to change your whole paradigm. People are so attached to their viewpoint these days. It's incredibly hard to get them to even move a little bit toward the other goalpost, But I mean, yeah, if you come to realize or think to realize that we've been lied to about not only the shape of the earth, but going to the moon, it starts to snowball your reality, because what else are we being lied to about? It really breaks down and makes you have to question every single thing, which I think is extremely important.
And I guess that's where shit starts getting a little weird for me when you say what we were lied to about. I don't think that it's some sentient being that's like controlling the I don't think there's like an evil guy like I guess the word I hear being thrown around a lot is cabal. Mm-hmm. I just think it's there's thoughts that just take hold and people move with those thoughts like in a herd, and then opportunity to make money, which is sort of the equivalent to human energy, starts attaching to these things until they fade out. Right. Like a lot, like, I don't think the COVID thing is some sort of, I think that the majority of people at Pfizer are just happy to get rich.
I mean, it goes pretty deep. There is a huge world population control agenda with these elite. If you follow
the World Economic Forum,
they're open about it. And
yeah, they're super open. Right. They're super open about it. Yeah.
I mean, the Georgia Guidestones, they were the 10 commandments of the New World Order. And the first commandment was keep the world's population under 500 million. And to put that in perspective,
what is that? Tell me what that is. What's the Georgia Guidestone?
Well, real quick, there's 7 billion people in the world, and they want to get rid of 13 out of 15 people. But
when you say they, who's they?
Well, the people trying to implement the New World Order, you have the World Economic Forum. I'm going to say the Freemasons are a big part of who they are. If you really dive into Freemasonry and just the history of it and who are Freemasons, it's so many people that are, I mean, most of the world leaders are Freemasons. Most people in the World Economic Forum are Freemasons. Most of the people successful in Hollywood are Freemasons.
What is that? That's a boys' club.
Women, you know, mainly it's a boys' club, really. You can, I guess, be married to a Freemason. I don't think there's any females allowed to join Freemasonry, but it's a.
I wonder if
an
that
occult.
shit's getting weird for them now that we don't know what a female is. I wonder if that shit's getting weird for them.
Right. I mean, but that's part of what they're doing. They're trying to deconstruct people's morals and reality because they're easier to control if you can break down their culture and break down the family construct. You can control these people, and if you can change the definitions, you start to confuse people, and they'll cling to people that can provide a solution or an answer.
Do you know what your process was in starting to be a more free thinker in order to be like, hey, what should I believe and what shouldn't I believe? What do I actually know and what don't I know?
I've questioned kind of authority kind of my whole life.
Like a contrarian?
Like a contrarian? What exactly is a contrarian?
Kayla would have to look at it, but like basically if you see a sign that says no entry, you get triggered by it and you want to enter.
Maybe not so, but I'm like, why can't I enter? Like, why,
okay.
Mom, why can't I stand on this chair? Well, they're not made for standing on, but I mean, like I had to know why.
A person who opposes or rejects popular opinion, especially in stock exchange dealing. Oh, I never knew that. Someone who goes against current practices, rejecting popular opinion.
And I wouldn't say I reject these things, but I like to question things. But I think a huge part of what made me start to see the world differently and realize that we're only seeing a thin slice of reality even was psilocybin long back in the day. That kind of opened my eyes up to, holy crap, we can tune into different frequencies, and this is just one frequency that we're experiencing, and we think that it's entire reality. So that was one thing that kind of opened my mind. But I think that actually the food industry was my big first rabbit hole that would be a conspiracy, because I had all these digestive issues and I needed to find out what was going on, and doctors didn't know crap about nutrition, I'll tell you that. And so I started reading all these books about nutrition, and then I read this one book called The Food Revolution, and it was by John Robbins, one of the sons of Baskin Robbins, the founders of Baskin Robbins. And he just went into all this stuff about the food industry that they don't show us or tell us, just how horrible it is, the conditions, not only the animals, but then you go into the plants, with Monsanto, all the genetically modified stuff, all the pesticides, all that stuff. So I started to just be like, holy crap, we are being lied to, manipulated, and just poisoned.
Isn't it crazy that it's the guy from Baskin Robbins? If you did some sort of study where you tried to figure out how many days eating ice cream has removed off of planet Earth. So
right.
It's probably in the billions of days of life it's shortened. And yet no one wants to. You would think that book would be huge. Everyone would be talking about it. It's the same thing when one of the vice presidents from Pfizer came out and he's like, yo, this isn't a vaccine, people. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
One of the former vice presidents came out. He's like, yo, just so you know, I used to work there. This is not a vaccine.
But people will reject that.
Yeah.
With all their livelihood. And the mainstream.
And I don't blame you for rejecting it, but how about just put one ear to it? Be like, excuse me, what did you say over there?
Right. Consider it, Yeah. And, the media is owned and controlled, so you can't trust what they say. You'll kind of want to do the opposite of what they say.
Do you think that it's controlled on both sides? Do you think that they purposely have the Tucker and the CNN, and that it's to play both sides?
I do
if
believe
they don't play both sides, that they understand the psychology of man, and if they don't play both sides, they'll leave a hole open on one end of the cage and we'll all escape, kind of intellectually.
Well, I do believe that they are all controlled, the mainstream ones, because if you really look at who owns them, it's really 5 entities that own all the major media outlets. But I mean, and it's kind of like a script. You know, you got to, if you have the hero, you have to have a villain, and you got to write that and play that. So I think that it's used to control the narrative, because if we're talking about all this stuff,
well, whether let's be clear here for everyone who's listening, whether it's being used to control the narrative, it is the narrative. We can all agree on that.
100%.
Whether it's free flowing and there's some honesty to it, or whether it's just completely coming from a group's mind. So at least we can all agree on that. It is the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Or there is a narrative.
The mainstream narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you're busy talking about all that stuff, you're not busy looking at what they're actually doing. You know, I mean, Tucker's really good. I love Tucker, and I love some of the people on Fox, but Fox is definitely, I think, controlled opposition. They do have some good people on there, so it's hard to sift through it all and figure it out.
So you're saying it's magic. By magic, I mean like the kind of magic you see in Las Vegas. You're saying it's like complete sleight of hand,
mind control, magic. Exactly. And in fact, these Freemasons and the elite are literally using black magic on the people.
And what is that? What's black magic?
Well, it's satanic witchcraft. It's also predictive programming. It's
okay, so that I understand. Predictive programming. I don't understand satanic witchcraft, but predictive programming is I ring the bell. That's Pavlov stuff, right? I ring the bell. I feed you a sandwich. Now every time I ring the bell, you think a sandwich is coming.
So that's conditioning.
Okay.
Predictive programming is where they kind of put things, for example, in movies that they're actually doing to get your mind kind of ready for it and to normalize it and to accept it.
Oh.
Even though like you consciously know that this is Hollywood and this is a script, subconsciously they bypass your critical thinking, your faculty. And once they bypass that, they're now in your subconscious mind, and you're literally buying into everything they're saying. And then they sneak in the ad, and then you're still under this trance, and they're like, buy this, buy this, buy this. And then they go back to the story that you're already involved in.
So Herbie the Love Bug, do you remember that guy?
Herbie. Sounds
Herbie
very
the Love.
familiar.
It was that Volkswagen bug, and he could like talk and shit. And so that was, I'm partly joking, but that was predictive programming for the Teslas that were coming.
There you go, right?
Or scary Ebola movies were to prepare us for the COVID nonsense.
Yeah, there are. Yep, a lot of that going on. Or for example, to get back to kind of flat Earth, Game of Thrones.
Okay.
The ice wall. The ice wall.
Yeah.
You know, Antarctica.
Yeah.
Things like that. Disney.
I actually thought of that last night. So you think the person who wrote that suspects that the Earth is flat?
You know, that's a good question.
Or he just kind of stole from that, like he looked into it and he's like, "Oh, I like this."
You know, and I mean, because it was, I don't know the origin of who wrote that actually and when it was written, but
it's written recently. It's some old guy who looks like he's gonna die at any second. He looks like he needs to read the Food Revolution book.
Yeah, right?
Caleb, could you pull up that map of the flat Earth, the entire flat Earth? That thing was fucking fascinating. It reminded me, like, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and it reminded me like of a Dungeons and Dragons map.
Yeah, and there are different maps when you enter into the flat Earth. And I don't consider myself a flat earther. I consider myself a non-glober.
Okay, I like that. I was actually going to ask you about that because I don't consider myself an anti-vaxxer. I'm against forced drug use.
There you go.
Let's talk about this really quick. Do you think we could agree that a lot of the people who believe in this stuff are crazy? By crazy, I mean they have some mental disturbances.
You know, I wouldn't say a lot of the people. I would say a few of them do, but I would say that the people that are considering this,
a disproportionate amount to,
you know, that's what they want you to think.
Okay.
You know, and they push those. They actually have created, like, for example, the Flat Earth Society is one of the things that'll pop up on Google first when you Google this stuff. And they've created this to make these crazy answers so that when people start researching it, they're like, this is nuts. I'm done with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, and again, the true flat earthers don't claim to know everything. They just know that we're being lied to about this, and this, because they literally don't add up.
Right.
And now that big map, you know, there are maps that have been found that have land beyond the known world outside. Who knows if they're true, but there's something to consider. I just bought 2 books that map is in. It's about one guy. The first book is about one guy that gets through the southern wall, at the ice wall, gets through, talks to other societies, civilizations out there, is on different continents, has a child. And then the second book is about that child. It's a girl, came back and tells about her experience from outside the known world. And I haven't read them yet. And
What's the name of the book?
You know, I could grab them real quick, but there's 2 of them. I'll post about them soon.
So here's the thing, Bruce. This is a very good question. Here's the thing that people start to struggle with. Is gravity a myth? The answer is yes. Gravity is an idea that we're using to try to explain something. It is not real. Like Brent over there sitting in Utah, he's real. Brent, could you touch yourself like on the forehead or something?
I don't know what real is anymore, though, you know?
Real is something that's not that we understand. Like I use the name Brent as a signifier to point to you. And by that, I mean it's real. Like we can see the red stoplight and all of us can agree that there's something there. But what's not real is that it means stop. We've agreed upon that illusion. And so that's where it gets blurred between conflating your reality with your thoughts. The gravity is just a signifier. It once again is not, and that's why Einstein was able to disprove Newton's gravity and come up with theoretical, or what is it? Anyway, you can look it up. It's no secret. No one's denying that Einstein came up with another theory for gravity.
Right.
It's fascinating. Right? Say that again.
Well, Einstein was a Freemason.
Oh.
And you know, he stole his theory. I believe it was the theory of relativity. He stole one of his major theories from somebody else, but they put him as the poster boy, as the guy that created that, invented that.
Do you know about Rosa Parks?
What exactly about Rosa Parks?
I mean, you can just look. It's on Wiki too. What's crazy is no one's hiding this stuff. That was all a setup. They had already had a lady the month before that got kicked off the back of the bus, but I think she was a single mother or something, or she was pregnant, so they didn't want to use her as the poster child. So then they set the Rosa Parks thing up after. Yeah, Claudette Colvin is an American pioneer of the 50s civil rights movement and retired nurse age. On March 2nd, 1955, she was arrested at the age of 15 in Montgomery, Alabama, for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman on a crowded, segregated bus. Wow. And then as you start looking into it, you're like, oh shit, that they like that idea. I mean, the spirit of Rosa Parks is true, but the story's not like actors have been changed.
What they're doing is they're manipulating the people, you know, and they've been doing this for a long time. I learned this in part by being on a reality show.
Okay, tell me.
You know, you look at this, people look at these reality TV like, oh, that's unscripted reality TV. That's actually what they're saying, and that's, you know, but you know, even on Ninja Warrior, they're like, well, you know, let's try that again. Can you? And they kind of try to feed people lines. Some people just say whatever they're told to say. Some people are like, no, that's not really who I am, and I'm going to say it this way.
And they try to intimidate you a little bit too, right? It has to be this way. Like,
yeah, they literally have these story producers that need to fit people in these boxes because they want to get all the demographics in the pie chart down, so viewers are attached to these people. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of it's not real, but I'm just saying a lot of it's skewed. And the more I learn about history, the more I learn we're being completely lied to. You got to check out this stuff called Tartaria. It's pretty deep, but Tartaria, just Google that sometime. It's pretty wild.
I want to go back to this thing where they're not hiding anything. So during the whole COVID thing, they were never hiding anything. There's this video going around about a guy in the Netherlands now in the parliament who's saying, wait a second, you never did studies on transmission. They never claimed to have done studies on transmission. They were always open that they didn't know about transmission since the very first day. I've said it, you can go back in my podcast. I'm like, hey guys, they're not claiming it worked. Like, stop getting mad at them. you're falling for it. They're not hiding any of it.
Yeah. Well, they have to get our consent. They have to telegraph what they're doing. It's part of the black magic. They have to telegraph what they're doing, and we have to give them consent.
So kind of like they're using our will.
100%. They are channeling our energy to manifest, whatever they're trying to manifest.
And we're completely responsible for it.
We are. I mean, unfortunately, most people are programmed literally by the television, and they're stuck. They just want to be entertained.
Wow. Say that again. I've never heard it like that.
Oh, they're programmed.
The television.
Programming on the television.
Like it's telling you what to do.
It's telling us what life should be. It tells us what
our vision should be
for life to be like it is on the thing.
Let me tell your vision to you. Let me tell your vision. Let me tell you my vision. Holy shit.
And that's what storytellers do through the television. But I think people are just they're busy working all day. They want to come home and they don't want to critically think about things. They want to live vicariously through Game of Thrones or whatever, like they don't have the brain power to get to the bottom of these things. And it's hard to find this information, sometimes.
How many roosters do you have?
I don't have any roosters. I was hoping to get one.
So you don't have any roosters. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. They're trouble.
That's what I hear.
They're trouble.
Have you had some chickens?
No, but everyone I know who has is always like, I got a rooster. Do you want them? I got a rooster. Do you want them? My neighbors have a shitload of chickens and they have one rooster.
Yeah.
And when they tell me stories about him, he's just a fucking menace.
Just come clawing behind you, just scratching at your heels.
Well, just what he does to the girls, what he does to the hens. He just wants to pound hen all day.
All day. Like you literally have like jackets you can get for your hens to protect them from getting pounded all day.
Yeah. And you can't have the wrong ratio of roosters to hens.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know about the Coolidge effect?
No.
I've told it on this story before. You should look it up, but it's basically the president. Calvin Coolidge went to I'll tell it real quick. Calvin Coolidge went to a farm, like one of the state-run farms, and him and the first lady were on the farm, and it was like 50 square miles. This farm, it was massive. It had all the animals on it, and this is a true story. I think I read it like it was a true story, and they get separated, and they show the first lady. They said, "Mrs. Coolidge, this is our prize rooster. He has sex 50 times a day." And the first lady goes, "Oh, please show this to the president." And so later on, they bring Calvin Coolidge through, and Calvin Coolidge, they say, "Mr. President, the first lady wants us to show you our prize rooster. He has sex 50 times a day." And the president said, "With the same hen?" And they go, "No, sir, 50 different hens." And he said, "Please tell Mrs. Coolidge that."
That's great.
And then since then, there's been a bunch of studies on that the refractory period of mammals can't even really be tested if you keep bringing in new females. The Coolidge effect is defined as a decline in the propensity of male to copulate repeatedly with the same female, combined with heightened sexual interest in novel females. Just say new females. Why novel?
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy effect. I've read some studies about how they've tried to test it on monkeys, and there was like no amount of new female like the male monkey could be like dead from having sex, and then you bring a new female in, and he's like, "Okay,
all right, let's do this." Yeah,
God,
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. No, I'm just kidding. Getting me in trouble.
No,
let's go back to the not hiding things. I don't know if you wanted to go on.
Oh, yeah, please, yes. Anything, yes.
Oh no, I didn't mean to derail where we were going.
So just they're not hiding anything. The on the CDC website, I don't know if it still says it, but forever it said 94% of the people who died have four or more comorbidities. 6% of the people we don't have data on. So then I just see that and I'm like, how many comorbidities do I have? I'm like, none. I'm good. I mean, it's pretty when they say, I'll show you this thing. These are all over the place on the internet. I want to show you this one. And I don't think that this is done on purpose. Healthy 16-year-old boy, COVID, dies, CNN. I really don't think that, by the way, I think that this is, I don't think, first of all, this is the origins of systemic racism. If you want to believe in systemic racism, this is what systemic racism is. It's not what they tell you it is. This is CNN telling us that this boy who's more than 200, I would say probably 300 pounds overweight. I bet you this is a 400-pound boy
Right.
who is 16 years old. Look, his ears are gone and his eyes are sunk into his head. His head is, they have him as a healthy teenager, took precautions. So it's just all lying. He's not healthy
teenager.
and he didn't take precautions, because if he took precautions, he would have been on a ketogenic diet and fasting, you know, and all sorts of shit to protect him. He would have, you know what I mean? No refined carbohydrates during the COVID years.
Right.
And so and you see his family. I mean, he's hiding in the back, right?
Yeah. I mean, none of them look healthy to me.
No, the baby might be.
Not for long. In that family.
So that I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in. So I think people read that and for some reason they're refusing. So they're not hiding to you that they're lying.
Well, it's gaslighting. It's like the elephant in the room nobody's talking about. It's like they're lying to you right in front of your face. This healthy boy,
yeah,
you know, died, and you know, they select these.
Why wouldn't they just show you? And here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt, Brent.
No.
Here's the red flag. Why wouldn't they show you a real healthy person?
Well, there's over 1,000 athletes that have died of sudden adult death.
No, I'm talking about people who died from COVID, not from the solution.
Right.
Yeah. Hey,
right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say,
and they're not hiding that, but they're not hiding that either.
But they don't blast it on the loudspeaker, and that's what people listen to, the loudspeaker. Otherwise, it's just a conspiracy, because if they don't see it on the news, because they trust the news is talking about real information. If you found it on some website or on some YouTube channel, that's a conspiracy.
But CNN's okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like literally you can find juxtapositions of the president saying, if there's a hurricane, the best thing you can do is get the COVID vaccine. That's your number. And then a year later saying that the head of Pfizer saying that we now know that the first 2 shots didn't do anything. You have to get the booster. I'm just how do people? I mean, that's got to put the brakes on everyone. No,
you would think.
You just like wait. I can't. I can't process both of those. Somewhere the story. And I'm open. Let's see what. No one's even like this either, Brent. No one's like, hey, sorry, we got it wrong. Exercise was the best, and eating was. No one's even doing that. Hey, I'm sorry, we got it wrong. They're just changing the story.
Right. Well,
they don't even no ownership, nothing.
Sweep it under the rug. The CDC did come out and say, hey, we handled this thing really poorly. They posted it for a quick second, and then it was buried by the next big story or whatever. You know what I mean? And people cling to like the same with the flat earth thing we were talking about, or just beliefs. They cling to their belief because if they're wrong, they have to, first of all, their ego has to be enough to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I was wrong about that. And they even have to probably acknowledge that to some other people. That's a big step for people to go through. So
that makes me feel better what you're saying than it's Freemasons controlling it. I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't like that either. But people would rather double down and cling to their belief than to admit that they've been wrong and have to have a new way of maybe even join the other side they were making fun of. They would have to be one of them now. It's tough. Psychology is weird.
And basically, they're also telling all people with melanated skin, hey, by the way, this is what a healthy boy looks like. It's okay if you're, and that's where the systemic racism part comes in. Look, that magazine is programming you on what your healthy child should look like, and that's a lie. That's like killing people.
Well, you can't fat shame these days. You can't point out that he's not healthy. That's fat shaming. You have to accept who he is.
I mean, he was on medications for sure.
Absolutely. And I've even heard of doctors that can't tell their clients, like, hey, you're just fat. You need to like stop doing what you're doing. And that's not the doctor's, it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not in their scope of practice. Nutrition is not their scope of practice. It's 100%. Hey, you know what? Let's get you on all these drugs that'll play with your hormones and,
I call them the docents of death, and I don't mean that in a mean way. But if you go in there with type 2 diabetes, they walk you to your grave with using, metformin and whatever, as opposed to walking you back out, like, oh, here's the solution, and walk you back this way. They
And
walk you to the dialysis machine and then to your grave.
This is an intentional thing. This, if you look back at how Rockefeller back in the early 1900s, totally hijacked the medical system. He found he could use petro-based pharmaceutical drugs to treat these people's symptoms. They're immunosuppressant drugs. And he went on this huge campaign, dumped a bunch of money into like turning a propaganda campaign into turning plant medicine into witchcraft.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's a real thing. You can look into that too, but nobody wants to find that. They just want to look at the new thing on Netflix.
And that is what they do. They poo-poo other thoughts. That's the thing with, and that brings me back to the flat earth thing. Everyone just poo-poos it. Like everyone I've been like, oh, I'm having this guy Brent on. He thinks the earth is flat, or he has suspicions the earth is flat. Everyone gives me an eye roll.
Right. It's built in. Because they want to make people, the CIA coined the term conspiracy theory or theorist to make people that were, starting to actually talk about things and critically think about things out to be nut jobs. And you don't even have to have the conversation anymore because they're just a nut job.
Right. And yeah, it's like a hedge against thinking. It's like when I told someone, because I had voted for Hillary and Obama, and I toed the party line forever. And when I told someone I voted for Trump, they stormed out of my house, a family member. They got mad at me.
That's wild. That's crazy, isn't it?
Or if I would be like, hey, can you show me where Trump was racist? They're like, well, he was racist against Mexicans. And I go, can you show me? And then we pull it up on the internet, and he wasn't. He just said Mexico's sending in killers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not racist. Just like fat shaming isn't really fat. Like, if you're running towards a cliff and you're about to fall off, and I say, Brent, you fucking idiot, stop running. I'm not cliff hating. Right. I'm not even Brent hating. I'm just like trying to get your attention to stop you from running off the cliff. Yo, motherfucker, you're fat. You're gonna die next. Like, someone just told Dana White that. Do you watch UFC?
Oh yeah. Well, I used to really follow it a lot, but I love it. But I haven't
did you see what just happened to Dana?
No, what happened to Dana?
So someone just told him, if you go to his Instagram, Mr. Beaver, someone just told Dana, yo, dude, you're fucking dead in 10 years.
Oh, yeah?
You're fucking toast. Yep.
I mean, you're
going to fucking die.
His face gets a little puffier every year,
And red. And now look at him. He's all skinny and ripped and shit. And he did a 12-week program. Yeah.
Boom.
Brent, what do you think the program involved?
Well, probably exercise and diet. Probably, keto is good. Keto, I think keto is great for getting results very quickly. I don't know how sustainable it is for me anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Gets the ball rolling like a mofo though.
Right. And I go through periods. Like if I'm like feeling like I haven't been eating right and that stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go keto for a while, clean this up, and then kind of slowly introduce things here and there.
So this guy right here basically took a test on him and said, hey, we can predict when you're going to die up within a month.
Interesting.
And I don't know whether that's true or not, but just Dana hearing that scared the shit out of him. And it's cool that he's being so open about it.
That is. No, Dana's really an open dude, and he'll speak his mind. I like that about Dana.
Did you see a couple weeks ago that he had Mark Zuckerberg and that they had those fights at the Apex and they didn't let anyone come in and watch, and yet Mark Zuckerberg and his homeboys were there? Did you see that?
I missed that one. Interesting.
Not last week, but the week before. Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
And you see Mark's been fighting. Have you seen that?
No way.
Yeah.
I would love to step in the ring with Mark. I would love an opportunity to do that.
Well, it makes me think that maybe Mark's something's happening to Mark.
This is probably some
here we go.
Something's going to happen. They're preparing everybody's minds for. This is a campaign. This is a PR campaign is what this is.
Wow.
Interesting.
Is it healthy to think of everything like that? Should I be suspicious of everything I'm seeing? Can't I just be like, oh, this is fucking great. Mark's getting into a combat. Maybe he's having an awakening. He's seeing personal responsibility, personal accountability. He's probably, because I know that MMA crowd is a more holistic group that probably as a whole, they didn't fall for the COVID shit because they roll around and spit drops on each other and they have like proof that like, you're okay.
Yeah.
They'd much rather have COVID 30 times than staph infection. Do you think that there's I go the opposite way with it. I go, oh shit, maybe Mark's waking up a little bit. He's seen that he's responsible for his own being.
You got to be open to both of those things.
Okay.
But when you start to see, I mean, they don't put stuff on screens for no reason. Like they just don't put stuff because they own these channels, right? And they are telling stories for a reason. They don't just put things up there because it's fun. Very rarely, you know what I mean? And it might be, you know, if it was on somebody else's organic Instagram channel, I'd be more likely to be like, oh yeah, that's pretty wild. But if it's like some story that's on some mainstream, you know, extra television show or whatever, they're pushing Hollywood. You got to look into the origins of Hollywood. They call it Hollywood because the wizards would make wands out of holly wood.
Oh,
so
is that
they're
really
literally casting spells on the people through Hollywood.
Really? Hollywood
Yeah.
was what wands are made of?
Originally, I guess so, yeah.
I don't think people realize how powerful that medium is. I mean, obviously, I mean, I went to film school, and it's like whatever the first 5 film classes they talk about that. Like all the propagandists knew. Hitler knew. Stalin knew. All those guys fucking knew. The turn of the century guys,
Yeah,
and beyond knew. They're like, oh shit, we can trick anyone with this fucking projector.
absolutely. I mean, because it's bypassing your critical faculty and entering your subconscious mind, and they can literally plant thoughts, ideas.
500 episodes and flat Earth is my trigger. I make maps for a living. Hang tight, Seema. We're getting there. Hold on. Hang tight. Do you not believe the globe model?
Well, so here's the one of the things that kept me coming back. Aside from diving into this moon landing and coming to the realization that all that
Did
footage.
You see that the moon isn't really our moon either? Do you know that? No one's refuting that either. Have you seen that?
It's not our moon.
Yeah, it's not our moon. It doesn't behave like a moon. It's not a moon. It's circling the sun, not us.
Interesting. I've heard that it shouldn't even be there. Like
you can just look that up. Have you seen that, Caleb? That's done. They're not even, just like they don't teach Pluto's a planet anymore. The moon doesn't circle us. That's done.
Interesting.
It circles the sun. Yeah, it was just on like in Scientific America or something. Someone sent it to me.
Science and facts just change all the time. You know.
Yeah, it's a trip, right?
Yeah.
Someone put a link to that, or someone tell me I'm right in the comments. Would just like something just happened with the moon. The whole perspective on the moon has changed now. Okay, sorry. Okay, so the globe. So the globe thing.
So aside from the NASA's bullshit thing,
and that's bullshit too. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So absolutely though, but the thing that got me coming back to this flat Earth thing, because I'd heard people say, "Oh, the Earth's flat" for decades, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're crazy," just like everybody else. The observable horizon. So according to them, the Earth is about 25,000 miles in circumference.
At the equator?
It's the same at the equator. The one guy.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. And right. Anywhere you do it. Okay.
Circumference.
Okay.
But according to that figure, there's what's called an observable horizon. So a point where the horizon drops down and you can no longer see the ground. So
yeah, I live on the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, like basically there's oil derricks out there. Some that are closer to us, you can see the whole thing, and some that are farther away, you can only see like the tops of them because of the curvature. It's like 5 feet for every 5 miles it curves or something, right?
There's an equation for it, but yeah. So I mean, if you're standing at about 5'8", that's your eye line, and you're looking.
I'm 5'5", but that's close enough, right?
It might be the observable horizon might be a little smaller for you. I don't know.
Okay.
But if I'm looking out across an unobscured or whatever water that's flat.
Yeah.
The observable horizon is only 2.74 miles according to that figure. And you know, a lot of people, you can't see very far because your eyes are limited, first of all, but then there's forced perspective where things compress onto the horizon and you just can't see. But with these zoom lenses now, you can see things that are like well over 10 miles out. And if, according to that curvature, they should be like 50 to 80 feet below the curve. You shouldn't be able to see them at all, but you can. So that's an experiment that you can actually observe on your own that debunks the
So for those of us who live
data.
on the West Coast, I can find some points out there, like be like, hey, look up on Wiki, how far is that oil derrick off the coast of Malibu?
Yeah.
And I can start fucking with that. Or if I have a friend who has a boat, I can be like, hey, start driving your boat out there.
Yeah, if you got one of those nice Nikon lenses or cameras with the really far zoom,
Yeah.
you can recreate that experiment yourself. Or you can, for example, at the Great Salt Lake, the longest section is 12 miles apart. Two people went out, they had a laser, and he put it about a foot above the ground, and the other guy had a mirror on the other side, and the laser hit the mirror 12 miles out.
Wow. There's got to be a YouTube video of that if that's true.
There is. Yep. You can observe all this stuff on YouTube or on your own.
I really apologize if I convert anyone to being a flat earther. I'm apologizing in advance. Turn the show off now.
Right. They're going to probably, the masters are going to cut our conversation off here.
No, they like me. They like me. I was kicked off of Instagram.
Were you full blown kicked off?
Yeah, I had an account with 90,000 followers and a blue check mark, and I got booted.
Isn't that insane?
It is kind of crazy. Here's why it's crazy, because I don't think I say anything crazy. Like, one of the things I was really pushing for on my Instagram, I'm serious about it. I'm not trying to be a dick. I need to see someone healthy who died from COVID.
There you go.
I need someone to show me. I want to see a healthy person. They
Yep.
did not like that, but I don't know. But I don't think it's an irrational. I don't think it's like. It's not going to stop anyone. The fat people don't care. The people eating, like shooting heroin, aren't going to be like, oh, I'm going to stop because Sevan just showed us the way to not die from COVID. No one cares. I just need to know for myself so that I can continue to just not give a fuck.
You had an audience though, and I mean, if you can start waking people up, that's dangerous for them. So that's wild though. I mean, that's insane that you spent all this time.
And I love the platform too. I think it's cool.
Oh, it's great. It's great. But it's insane that you built that audience with all your hard work. And I'm sure that was possibly an even revenue stream for you.
No, actually it wasn't. That was another thing too. It really freaked out a lot. Like people very close to me are like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, it is like part of their identity and a revenue stream, but it was not for me. No.
But it's wild that they just stole that from you, just swept it out from under your feet and just.
Yeah. Well, they warned me. They warned me a bunch. I mean, subtly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised. I've definitely been buried.
Yeah.
Shadow banned. You can't mention me, stuff like that. But I am surprised that they haven't just fully booted me off.
Hey, I would talk about being shadow banned on this podcast like every day for a year, and people thought that was conspiracy. And then finally someone would try to tag me and they would send me a screenshot. They'd be like, holy shit, shadow ban is real. I'm like, dude, like, they're not, like, once again, they're not even hiding it. It just says you cannot tag Sevan Matosian because he spreads misinformation. Austin Hartman, my headband is too tight and I can't think clearly, but the Earth is 24,000 miles around. I'm no scientist, but I don't think 12 miles is long enough to make it is. Hold on, Caleb. Can you pull that up? Let's look at that for a second. Here's what was tripping me out. Joe Rogan had that jiu-jitsu guy on who believes that the Earth is flat. Famous guy from 10th Planet. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure I do.
Super famous jiu-jitsu guy. He started 10th Planet.
Eddie Bravo.
Eddie Bravo. Thank you. And
yeah. He's got his own podcast and stuff, right?
I think so, but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe started like beating him down, being like, "You're no scientist. I don't want to hear any of your flat earther bullshit." And Joe started beating him down, and then Joe's like, "But to use like you're not any scientist as a piece of authority, I don't think that holds any water anymore because we just had like every scientist that's been talking heads on the news for the last 2 years has been wrong."
Right. Well, science has been hijacked. You got to,
Oh, okay. Here we go. 8 inches every mile. This is great.
Yeah. And
so for 4 miles is 128 inches, which is, let's do 3 miles. 3 miles is 6 feet.
It's squared, so that's not actually accurate. There's an Earth curvature calculator. There's a few calculators you can go to.
Oh,
they'll have the whole like equation, and then you can actually just enter in like how far the object is, what the eye line is, and then it'll tell you
how far down it's gone.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, I don't see the reason why you get upset at someone who think. Well, are there any fucked up implications if the Earth was flat? Like,
people might just feel like duped, you know, fucked up implications
we're duped
as far
about,
as
5 miles is 16. That's what I've heard. I've heard 5. Oh no, what did I hear? Okay, 5. I think I had it wrong. I think I heard 15 miles was 5 feet. So it's 5 miles is almost 17 feet
below the curve, the observable horizon, below the observable horizon.
So basically, if I marked a spot on the ground, and then I walked 5 miles, and then I were to draw a straight line from where that spot I marked on the ground to the new spot I'm standing 5 miles away, it would cut off a sliver of the Earth. It would it would have to go through the ground to get there in a perfect straight line. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'd have like
yep, exactly.
It would cut into the surface of the Earth, and the lowest, the deepest depth it would get would be 16. Oh, actually, I don't know. I'm not going to.
Or for example, you know, if there's a tree 5 miles away that's 20 feet tall, you should only be able to see about 3.5 feet of the top of it. You shouldn't be able to see where it touches the ground.
Oh, okay. So exactly, if you were looking at a tree 20 miles away, the tree would have to be over 266 feet tall to see it.
Exactly.
And that's an experiment anyone can run.
Anyone can run. I mean, so for example, those oil
except what's kind of weird about that is you kind of have to do the whole fucking experiment at sea level because you don't know the terrain you're on.
You absolutely have to do it over water to really get an accurate.
Or the salt flats, like you said, by your house.
Yep. There's a few places on Earth that have. There's another place that like just has like a few inches of water that's perfectly flat, and you can do stuff there too as well.
So it's kind of weird that anyone would argue it when you could just go test it out yourself. Seema has a question about airplanes. That's probably a popular one also. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in airplanes, and I've looked out the window and I've seen what appears to be the curvature of the Earth many times.
Right, and that's what I used to think as well. But since I've kind of
you used to observe it. You used to observe it also. You still observe it.
Well, but what we're not observing, what we are observing is the horizon disappearing. You know, the forced perspective. So everything compresses into that horizon. Our eyes can't see for eternity.
Okay.
So, but
our eyes can't see for eternity. That's a great fucking line for if someone's a musician, steal that.
Right.
Okay, go on. Yes.
And I used to think that too. I was like, because I'd be like, yeah, I fly all the time. I can see the curve, you idiot. The world's not flat. And it would just, it would just go boom. But now that I've started researching this, I look out, and what I thought was the curve was I thought the horizon disappearing or whatever was the ground going like this. But if you look from left to right, there is no curve, and it should be the same both ways.
God, I swear that I did look left to right and it was a curve. What?
You should try it again because, give it a shot.
It's
this way. You're saying there was a curve this way?
Yeah, like couldn't I look at it and like kind of like hold up a ruler like at this distance and mark it, and then go to the center, and then it should be smaller, and then go over here and it would be longer again. You know what I mean? Just using my thumb.
If you put the grid on your camera thing on your iPhone,
yes,
it'll have that straight line.
Yeah,
and you can go like this, and it's right on that line the whole time. There is no curve, to my experience.
Yeah, Seema. How's that, Seema?
Boom. Shoot them down, Nuskin.
What about dudes who claim that they flew around the Earth? They circumnavigated the globe.
And the thing is so the flat Earth map is that the North Pole is in the center, and then the South Pole, or Antarctica, is not a continent on the bottom. It's actually an ice wall surrounding us. So if you were to go with a compass due east, you would go in a circle around the North Pole on the same latitudinal line, and you would consider that circumnavigating. But nobody has ever circumnavigated the globe going from the North Pole over the South Pole.
No shit, I don't believe that.
Look it up. Nobody's ever done it.
Holy fuck. If that's true, that's fucking bizarre. If that's true, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to start a GoFundMe account and do that.
I want to be a part of that. Well, here's another thing too.
We just need like a G5. We'll borrow it from like a Jay-Z or something.
Right.
Caleb, is that true? No one's ever.
He won't do it.
Okay. The Trans-Global Expedition from 1979 was the first expedition to make the longitudinal north-south circumnavigation of the Earth. Using only surface transport. Yeah, that does. I'm struggling to. How would you do that with only surface transport?
Another thing is too, there are several people that have claimed to have found the South and North Pole, but then there are different expeditions that will discredit the other one. And if you really read into these stories, like
those are denoted, by the way, by some sort of like electrical force, right, or magnetic force. That's what the North and South Pole.
True North Pole is, and you'll never see a video of someone walking around the North Pole with a compass pointing north the whole time. You'll never see that video. So another thing is in 1959.
I'm watching Caleb in the back. You can't see him. He keeps rubbing his face like he's gonna become a flatter. Caleb, I'm impenetrable. I'm closed-minded. Fuck. Don't let him get to you. Don't let him get to you. Just be closed-minded. Don't fucking open.
So in 1959.
Oh, so you'll go with me? Okay. So there's a third person. I can go with you.
We're getting people on board. I like this.
We'll put a pull-up bar in the G6 or G5, whatever the best jet is, and all of us will just we'll work out.
No, so in 1959 they made a treaty. 56 or 54 companies or countries that weren't even getting along made a treaty that there will be no self-exploration on Antarctica.
I would guess when I see that. So I'll tell you two things. When I see that, my brain goes to, yeah, of course they did. They don't want anyone going there and getting oil or digging up fucking where Superman lives or any of that shit. Like they don't want any, right?
Yeah.
But those leaders could have been duped to believe that too. The other thing is there was a moon Antarctica treaty agreement signed by 12 nations in which the Antarctic continent was made a demilitarized zone to be preserved for scientific research. I mean, they had to come up with some reason.
Right.
There's 11 million people on Antarctica. Wait. Oh, no, that must be for some country.
I was like, wow. Maybe 11 million penguins or something. I don't know.
There's a video you have that shows them like staging the moon landing. And the reason why that doesn't like hold with me, because once again, then my brain automatically goes, well, yeah, there's been lots of Hollywood movies where they've shown, right, the moon land. Like that could be any set anywhere. Like,
and I actually, I reposted that without really looking into it.
Yeah.
I've had friends tell me that this is footage from another film that they were trying to do, but you see the actual astronauts that were supposedly on the moon in some of these clips.
Which once again, of course, they've like hired them or they were trying to do a PSA or some shit like that, right? It's kind of misleading the way that they write that. WikiLeaks released.
Yeah, and that part up there I didn't even like look into at all. But there's a video.
I'm guilty of that too, by the way. I do that all the time.
Get a little, you pulled the trigger a little too soon. But there's a video of a guy.
I don't care. Look it up and prove me wrong. I'm open to being wrong.
Right, and that's part of what posting is all about. Is like, hey guys, here's some information I have.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about it? Can you shoot it down, or does it hold true?
Like I'm dying for someone to point to me that, hey, dude, last year actually 12,000 athletes collapsed, and this year it's only 1,000. The vaccine's actually saving people. You're an idiot. I'm totally open to that.
But let's have that conversation.
Yeah, let's have that conversation.
Yeah. But I suggest that you and all your viewers go and look at Google NASA moon landing footage. Go look at it for yourself. It looks like an amateur Hollywood production.
Well, you know what? The only existing footage of it, from what I've heard, is a recording of the TV. The original footage is nowhere to be found.
Well, supposedly they lost it. Or
back in the 70s, they only have a recording of the TV that was showing the live landing.
Right. Supposedly back in the 70s, there was a shortage of film for VHS. And so NASA had to record over that. They'll say it's in documents. You can read this yourself. They had to record over that footage for other stuff.
That's fucking insane.
isn't it? And I mean, we haven't been back to the moon since then. And they think, go ahead.
And then I also heard that I've heard stuff like that the technology that the suits were made from is lost also.
Right.
Which is, I don't know if any of this is true, but it's fucking weird if it is.
You can hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You can hear NASA saying, why haven't we gone back? Well, we've destroyed that technology and it'd be too painstaking to recreate. But yet they're sending rovers to Mars.
I did go to wherever I forget, I think it's in Texas somewhere, or Florida. I can't remember. I went to Texas, I think, to Cape Canaveral or wherever that is.
Oh yeah.
Wherever they launched that the control was, and they have the room still preserved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I walked around there and I saw it all. And I can't believe that the equipment in that room sent anyone from Portland to San Francisco, let alone to the fucking moon. It's
right.
I mean, my iPhone is more powerful than 1,000 of those rooms.
100%.
It's crazy.
Have you seen the footage of Nixon talking to the astronauts on the moon live on the phone? And then they pan out and he's got a picture on his wall of the Earth taken from the moon.
No.
Yeah. Look at it. You can Google it real quick. It'll be there. He's talking to them live.
Did we ever have a satellite go up there and before the astronauts and maybe take a picture and send it back?
That's, I'm unaware of that.
Okay.
But I know that there's no actual photograph of the Earth from space. There's composite images that have been CGI'd, and NASA's computer.
No. I saw this whole portfolio of a guy who's on the space station who posts all his pictures he takes from there of Earth.
The space station's totally bogus as well. It's like green screen.
Oh my goodness.
It's wild, dude. It takes a lot of time to like go through the footage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So these stories that I hear about how the Russians would smuggle fucking vodka up in there, wow.
Yeah.
First moon phone call. Moon. Can we hear this? Kayla, I want to hear what he said. What he said.
I mean,
is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you. Over. That would be an honor. Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
So wait,
Hello,
pause.
Neil.
So someone had to go 50 feet away and set up a camera and a tripod to get this shot.
Yeah.
That's the part I want to hear about. It's like when the guy gets to the top of Everest and there's fucking movie cameras up there. I'm like, who the fuck? How about the guy who did that?
Right.
Wow. I never even thought of that. That's so funny. I guess that could be researched. Who set up that camera? And can I see that camera? I want to own that camera.
Well, and watch the clip of the space shuttle or whatever taking off from the moon. The camera that they set up, somebody set up, pans with it, and these cartoon sparks go.
Can you find that, Caleb?
It's easy to find. Yeah.
Wow. Now they got shit you can just buy on Amazon where you put your iPhone in it and you just choose the sub, like you could go out surfing and
right.
The thing just follows you around.
And the drone and stuff too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder. Wow. Amazing. And now they have all this technology also stopping drones from going wherever they want. Have you ever owned a drone and like flown into private airspace or whatever, the illegal airspace, and your drone just stops? It's kind of scary.
I wish I had a drone, but I hear that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally a thing. They got it all. Do you see that shot of what's that thing called that took off from the moon? Saturn V or something? Didn't have a name or
Apollo 10, I believe it was. Moon landing takeoff.
Does any part of you wish you would never gone down this rabbit hole?
Look at it. It's zooming out. It's panning up.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me see the title of this video. They can't. That's last takeoff from moon Apollo 17's lunar module.
Watch it again. Look at these cartoon sparks and this little model on a wire. First of all, you can't spark in space because there's no oxygen.
Oi. I don't know about any of that stuff.
Well, I don't even know about space anymore, actually. I don't even know if it's a real thing.
Like the space between me and you?
Well, there is that space, but outer space where the planets are.
Yeah.
So again, when you dive into flat Earth, there's different beliefs within that, and one of them is a firmament. So a dome covering the known world. It's in the Bible. They talk about the firmament. It got me reading the Bible, that stuff. That
movie. What was the movie with Jim Carrey? There was a dome over it.
Truman, dude. That thing is like predictive programming and telegraphing up the wazoo, dude. It's wild. Watch that movie again with this kind of context, and you're like, oh my goodness. There's a thing called Operation Fishbowl where the government was trying to blast missiles through the firmament. It's in the documentation. Firmament. They couldn't do it. You can see videos of missiles hitting something and just exploding.
What about this idea of how I perceive the Earth as this sphere, right? My understanding of the Earth, and then around it there's a layer that's like not, I don't know how big, not even 70 miles, let's say, and it's the atmosphere we live in. And with it, and because of, for whatever reason, the density of air, the physics of it all, that as we spin, this outer layer is spinning with us all at the same speed. So every time I hear people say, well, if it was spinning, you'd jump, or a helicopter would take off and the Earth would go underneath it. And I'm like, no, I don't see that at all. There's the atmosphere. It's kind of like the atmosphere goes with it. The Earth's atmosphere rotates with it.
That's what they think.
Right. If it wasn't like that, the only option would be that the Earth is flat. That has to be.
Well, so listen to this.
The Earth is flat. I can't think of anything else that would, or else we wouldn't be hanging on.
Well, for example, like say a hot air, the Earth supposedly rotates at 1,000 miles an hour. That works out to be about 1,300 feet per second. I
thought it was like 12,000 miles per hour at the equator or something.
It's 1,000 miles per hour.
Okay.
Google it. I could be wrong, but that's worked out to be, I think it was about 1,400 feet per second.
Okay.
Does a plane landing account for any movement of the ground whatsoever?
But it does. You just have to see the Earth is bigger than the ground. You have to see that this atmosphere. You have to think of it as like skin, right? It would be like I told you I went like this, but my skin didn't come with me.
Well,
we just don't have the skills to perceive that this outer layer, because we live in it. It's like explaining water to a fish.
I see where you're going.
That this layer is spinning with the. It's part of it.
Yeah, we have such a small perspective of this larger. But for example, a hot air balloon. What if it goes up in the air for 4 hours? It should land thousands of miles away, or a helicopter, for example.
No, not if it's part. What I'm saying is let me see if I have a key passion fruit here. I think you know what I'm saying. That basically, the surface of the Earth. Just because we perceive that as the Earth, it's actually bigger. It's actually 70 miles higher, and that whole piece is one unit. But we don't perceive it that way. This thing that you and I call space, that's in between us, is behaves more like matter than it does the way we perceive it, because we're in it.
Oh, you're talking about the atmosphere.
The atmosphere, yes. It behaves more like matter, and it's actually pinned to the Earth, the same way your skin is pinned to you.
Now how,
so all those and there's something at a certain height, someone could explain it. I'm sure some astronomer or some physicist could explain it, that there's some distinction between pressure, or where oxygen can live, or where molecules could live,
the stratosphere,
that pull everything. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like if I dropped you from 600 feet into the ocean, you die.
Oh yeah,
on impact. It's right. It's like fucking hitting concrete. But that doesn't make any sense to you when you jump off the diving board into it.
Well,
and so there's forces at play that fuck with our perception. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand what you're saying. The diving board thing is terminal velocity. You're not traveling fast enough to hit the water at a speed that it can disperse at that speed. Where when you come at it at terminal velocity, it's like hitting a cement thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But for example,
So just because we move around in here freely in our day-to-day lives, wiping our ass, doesn't mean that this thing is as fluid as we think it is. You're not buying it.
I don't know. Well, so gases. Let's talk about gases. They
Okay.
will
Don't
go
say anything
from,
too smart. I'm barely hanging on. You're gonna lose
No,
me.
this
Don't
is
say anything
you
too smart.
got this.
Okay.
You got,
Okay.
they will go from a high pressure to a low pressure until they equalize.
Uh-huh.
So if you have gas next to a vacuum space, for example, it would totally dissipate into the vacuum.
Like when I blow out a match, I see the smoke go.
Yes. Yep. So I mean, the vacuum would literally suck the atmosphere into the.
And so what you're saying is to keep that in play, there needs to be a glass lid. I'm saying that there's some physics at play that behave like that, but it's not like my computer screen. We can't escape it.
And that's a possibility. That is a possibility. There was an example that I had the other day that kind of debunked the atmosphere moving with the earth, but I can't remember it. It might come to me.
It'll come to you. Do you ever get to have conversations like this with someone who's like a great open-minded, loving, sentient being like myself, or is it seem like it's just more contentious?
Very few. Yeah. Most people just don't want to talk about it. They're like, dude, I just don't want to talk about it. It's, what do I care what the shape the earth is? And that's fine too. My brother's really good about it. We get in some good discussions about it.
Is he open to the idea? There aren't the other planets are in here with us, is what he's saying. The other planets are inside the dome.
Well, there's different theories as well. There's supposedly maybe 7 firmaments. The stars are on one, planets are on a different one.
Oh.
Like there's this theory that like the planets are like a Stargate, and when they line up, that was what CERN was all about. Supposedly it was stars lining up and them trying to get through the portal to another dimension, possibly.
That thing was a colossal failure, right?
I didn't hear any results from it. What happened?
It was nothing. It's a scam. It's more broken science. It's COVID. So that is a major fuck up. I'll tell you the book to read. It's called Lost in Math by Sabine Hossenfelder. I think she's a German physicist. Anyone can go watch her videos on YouTube, by the way. She's brilliant. Sabine, Sabine, Hossenfelder. All those fucking nuclear accelerators have been a fucking colossal pit of billions. I think it's like $50 billion. No science came out of there. A complete fucking sham.
Just funneling money.
Yes. A complete fucking sham. This is the same people, all these people who believe in like, what happened is science has lost its way and they're chasing beauty instead of science. And they believe in things like multi-universes and they've completely fucking lost their shit. The scientists are crazier than the flat earthers. It really is. At least the flat earth people are like trying to point to some facts. These fucking guys have completely fucking gone off the deep end.
And people believe it.
The particle accelerator. Anyone who wants to be just freaked out, read the first 2 chapters of that book.
I'm going to for sure.
She fucks them up.
I love
And let me tell you, she thinks the earth is round, I bet. So there.
I would love to talk to her. You should have her on your show and just kind of put the filler out there.
Sevan, please ask him about Antarctica being a giant ice wall guarded by NASA. We'll touch on that.
I wouldn't say NASA, but yeah.
Who would you say?
It's militarized by several militaries are down there. There's footage of people trying to go with a boat into an area you're not allowed to, and they get stopped by the military. They're like, turn around.
I was in Scottsdale in this really fucking expensive neighborhood the other day, and do you know that company that sells cars like through vending machines, Carver or whatever?
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to remember what the name is. Anyway, they own 3 houses in this cul-de-sac in Scottsdale. And I'd say each of the homes are between $10 and $20 million a piece. And I drove into the cul-de-sac at night with Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, and just fucking 2 dudes. I'm sure they were fucking ex-special forces dudes walk up and they're like, no, boys.
Yep.
You're saying Antarctica's being guarded the same way as that called?
Oh yeah.
They're like, no, boys. I'm like, but this is public. He's like, no, boys. And Greg and I
We're
started
not playing
laughing.
this
Like,
game.
yeah. We're like, okay. We are no one. You don't live on this block. We own this block.
Yeah. We've been watching you for a few miles now. All right. You got to go.
Oh, Carvana. Yeah.
Carvana. There you go.
Yeah.
Carvana. Yep. Carvana.
I got to go make flat maps of trees you can't see for wildfires. They aren't. I see being like, why?
And that's the stuff. Most people don't want to like throw real questions out. They just want to mock you.
Yeah. SEMA.
Speaking about the CERN thing being, totally bogus, like NASA gets $50 million a day in taxpayer money, and they're not going to space. They're developing technology on our dime, like systems engineering, materials, AI,
Are they open about that?
I mean, they won't tell you they're not going to space, that's for sure, but you can follow the funding.
Yeah. And once again, it's just none of it's hidden.
Right.
NASA's kind of like probably a really romantic, like if someone said, hey, we're shutting down NASA, probably like people like me are like, oh, that sucks. Don't do it. Okay. Don't do it.
It's a nostalgia type of thing.
Yeah. I want to go to the electricity as a disease.
Oh yeah. Have you read that book, Invisible Rainbow?
I haven't, but I did start hearing about this cycle of diseases that with each kind of evolution of electric technology that comes out, it releases diseases in humanity. But I've also heard that we have the ability to fight those things off, like that 8% of our DNA is made from viruses, and you just have to be prepared to, like we're mutating inside of ourselves to fight. We're evolving, and we have the ability to evolve to defend against these things and to coexist with these things.
Well, I guess the people that don't die from it will, they survived for a reason, so their genes will pass on.
What is this? In a nutshell, can you explain this to me?
So I got to be honest, I haven't read this book yet. I have the audio and the hard copy, but I'm on some other books right now. But this is basically the story of the rollout of technologies, for example, like radio, technology.
And all the diseases that came with it when it came out.
Yep. And then how they explain it,
And these are all correlates.
Yep. My Emma, my lady, has read some of it, and she talks about just how they're actually changing the electromagnetic field of the earth by how much cable and stuff they've covered the earth in, and like transmitting all these electric frequencies through it constantly.
Wow. I guess you could experiment with that too. I remember there being experiments as a kid where you could wrap wire around a magnet and you could fuck with a magnet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's like free energy right there. Free electricity. Magnets and copper.
So as you go down, as you start thinking of these things, you have to also, I guess, be aware that like, hey, I'm going to read this book and it's probably it could accidentally reprogram me. Like none of this shit could be real, but it could fucking like infiltrate me.
That's a total possibility, but you gotta, again, you can't just take anything as truth. You gotta be a critical thinker all the way through. Yeah, some things are going to support your current beliefs, and so it might reign true more than others, but that's what we all do. We contrast new information with information we've had before, and we decide if it fits or not, and you got to constantly be doing that.
What about the alien thing? How that Rogan was running with the alien thing, and then New York Times hit it up, and now there's just fucking footage everywhere, all over the internet of the U.S. military seeing these white globes flying around everywhere. I mean, it's kind of like it seems like everyone agrees that they're here, but no one's talking about it.
Right.
No one's like, hey, we got one, or hey, they're talking to me, or hey, I got one. I live with one. But there's video footage of it everywhere now.
I've seen those a few times
you have?
On my own. Yeah, I have posted about it. It's on my Instagram way back. But I call them UFOs because I can't identify them. They're not anything I can identify, but it could be the government
messing
with technology that they just haven't told us about.
I want it to be that. I
Right.
mean, obviously, it makes completely no fucking sense that we're the only life out here if this thing's as big as they say it is.
And definitely not the most intelligent. That's for sure.
And yeah, I mean, what are the odds of that? I mean, but on the other hand, like, I don't like that. I don't like the thought of them. Like, do you know about Urantia? Have you ever heard of that?
I
Urantia?
haven't, no.
There was this giant, thick fucking book that one of my friends had in college, and it basically said that there was a civilization that we can't see that basically harvests energy off of human beings. This is before the Matrix came out, way before the Matrix came out, and that they harvest that they when we have emotion, we release energy, and that's what they harvest.
Like loosh energy.
Is that what that's
they're
called?
Feeding off of fear or sadness.
Yeah, or maybe even happiness. Who knows? But just anytime we have emotion, we give off energy and they harvest it. And I do have a very strong perspective that everything here, there's just the macro and micro of everything, right? Like, I've seen ants in my yard harvesting aphids. They collect all the aphids, they put them on one branch, and then they keep them alive and they harvest milk from them. And we do that to cows. And like, in the cyclical nature of things, and in this, level of the way everything is just, we're all made of Legos here. It's just how they were put together. It makes perfect sense to me that there would be some sort of hierarchy like that. Like, what are we feeding that we can't see?
Right. And I mean, there's other dimensions we're surrounded by all the time. It's just we're tuned into this frequency, literally. It's like radio. If you're listening to X or 96.3, that's what you're specifically tuned into. But all the other frequencies are all around you all the time.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even that if that happens in one place, it has to be happening in other places. Like, there's no phenomenon where you're just like, hey, that's an isolated incident. I wish I could think of a word that kind of explains this. Salt Lake City.
It's tricky to see. There's a few of them in there. See, we were focused on one, and then we realized that there were actually there was a second and maybe even a third. It's been a while since I've watched it. It's going to be tough to see on a.
Hey, the ones where the U.S. Navy is seeing those things fly around the ship is fucking. You know what I'm talking about? There's hundreds of them.
Cigar-looking thingy.
Yeah, and they're everywhere.
Oh, hundreds of them. Like, I have not seen that footage. No.
It's just all and the guys on the boat are like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Huh. It might even be in the Mediterranean. Do you know what I'm talking about, Caleb? Have you seen that one? I think the New York Times linked to it or something. It's fucking nuts. It seems scary shit. Or you see like the two Navy pilots flying and they're talking to each other and they're like, hey, dude, do you see that? And they go, yeah. And they're like, let's chase it. And they fucking can't chase it. They can't keep up with it.
Yeah. So here's something interesting. Have you ever heard of
And then that might be made up. That might be made up.
I was just going to go into that.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Wernher von Braun?
No.
Well, he was a scientist that they snuck into the country after World War II, who headed up helped develop NASA, and he came in with missile technology, and they snuck him in through Operation Paperclip. You can look at that document. But he worked with NASA because he had the rocket technology. Anyway, he did a show with Disney, a movie with Disney before they launched. Yeah, Wernher von Braun. But he has this thing called The Final Card. There's a documentaries out there you can see where he tells about these crises that the government is going to set up for different reasons of creating a crisis and solution. And the final card is going to be an alien invasion. And that's how they're going to solidify this one world government, because we have to band together to save, humanity. The final card, Wernher von Braun. It's kind of interesting.
I mean, that would do it. That would probably do it. I'd probably get on board with that.
Yeah.
I'd be fucking like, sign me up. Shit. I really just want my boys to find a nice girl and live in Utah and like raise chickens.
Right.
And help old people and like, and I want them to invent shit. It's okay. Like if some people want to go to Mars or something, I just want it to be cool.
Right.
I understand some dudes got to fight. I get it.
Just let us, enjoy life and build a future.
I like technology though. I love my iPhone.
It would be hard to do without these things.
It's fun. Brent, I'm going to take my boys to go skateboarding now. But
Cool.
why did you come on? When's the last podcast you've done? I saw a shitload of podcasts you've done, but I hadn't seen one since like 2018.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Why did you come on?
Well, I mean, I just love engaging with people, talking about things, whatever they want to talk about. I love having that conversation. You seem like a like-minded guy in some areas, and you're a family man, and you're super into CrossFit, and you're very healthy. So I knew you were somebody that.
Did you say I'm very handsome? Is that what you said?
Very handsome, very handsome.
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard you say. Listen up, people.
Exactly. I was saving the best for last. But no, you just seem like a good guy, and it'd be just an interesting conversation, and I was down.
Cool. I really love it. I think we have to have a part 2.
I'm all about it. Let's do it.
Look, Caleb. Even Caleb. Wow. Oh no, Caleb. No.
You're down, part 2?
No,
Absolutely.
Caleb.
You're gonna be a full flat Earth retard by the end of that show. So be careful.
Brent, very nice meeting you. I have your number. Maybe I'll text you in the next couple of days. Maybe also like I'll find out what you're reading and I'll start reading it too, and we could spice up the next one a little bit.
I'd love it. That sounds
okay,
fun.
brother.
Cool.
I'll chat with you soon. Yep.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Enjoy skateboarding.
I said I got zero quackadoodle from him. He didn't cry. He didn't yeah.
He had it was interesting. There were some things that he said that I looked into but didn't pull up on the screen.
You didn't want to just like that was like completely refuting what he said?
No, that was there's things that I've seen before that I couldn't find, or things that I pulled up that the topic had passed, so I couldn't. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but
all right.
Very interesting.
Being that the job that you have, does that podcast like this with a cat like that make you nervous at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Brent Steffensen, what a great guest. Cool dude. We'll be doing a live call-in show soon. I don't know when, and I'll tell you all what happened with Miss the identity doctor, Lisa Marie Del Rio. I can't read you any of the text because it's just against my policy of reading the text back and forth. But after the podcast, she did say a bunch of very nice things about how much she enjoyed it. I think it was obvious from those of you who saw the podcast that she really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed her. But something squirrely happened behind the scenes, and this morning I got letters from her lawyer saying pull it down, which, by the way, there's no way they can make me pull that down, by the way. And you would fucking be I have 20 lawyers who would love to fucking go to war with me for me. But my goal isn't to win. My goal is to be a nice human being and to do what makes people happy, to the point of not compromising myself. And there's a component of I researched her for hours and hours and hours, and I gave her 2 hours of my time on the show and 2 hours of Caleb's time, and then the whole entire team works on the show, and all of you guys listen, and then for her to backtrack, there's something really and not tell me why. Like if she would have been like, hey, Sevan, a bunch of women DM me and said you're a really bad person, you're misogynist, and I don't want to be on your platform, I'd be like, okay. But just all of a sudden just come at me like that, it's pretty unethical, it's immoral, it's not humane. So anyway, that's the way it goes. Like to open the lines maybe later and get your guys' opinion and thoughts on it. It's kind of fun. In the big picture though, I'm glad these things happen in my life because it's more content, as they say.